So it's self-attesting, it's historical, it's impossible, it's reliable, but it's also archaeological. And here's what I mean by that. In the 1930s, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, and here's how they were discovered. There was a Bedouin shepherd whose one of his goats ran away into one of the Qumran caves, and in the Qumran cave area, there are many, many different caves everywhere. He didn't want to go up into the cave to get the goat out, so he picked up a rock, threw it into the cave to get the goat out. But when he threw the rock into the cave, he heard something shatter. Now, do natural things shatter? Not really. Only man-made things shatter. And so that piqued the curiosity of the Bedouin shepherd. He went up into the cave, and what he discovered was this huge vase that had now been smashed into 1,000 different pieces. And what he found next to these pieces were papyrus everywhere. He didn't really know what they were. He knew they were old and maybe important. So he sold them to a flea market for a few bucks. As someone was walking through the flea market, he recognized that these papyrus were very old, and lo and behold, they were the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so this sparked the curiosity of many archaeologists throughout the world. And so it was like the wild, wild west gold rush. And so everyone started looking at all the different caves in the Qumran caves, and what they discovered were hundreds of different fragments and papyrus of what was written by different scribes a long time ago. One of the oldest copies that they found is a copy that they call P52. Sorry to nerd out here, but P52 stands for Papyrus 52. It's a really small fragment. And it has John 1830 something on the front, and it has John 1830 something on the back. And it dates all the way back to 110 to 130 AD. John was written in 90 AD, so that's a time gap of like 20 to 40 years. When you take a look at Homer and Plato's writings, the copies that we have of them, it's a time gap of hundreds or 1,000 plus years between what they originally wrote. And so we don't have the original copies. We only have copies that go back hundreds, if not over 1,000 years. And yet P52 is only 20 to 40 years after John died. And so as we discover more and more archaeology, what we're gonna find out is more support for the Bible than less support for it. So the Bible is self-attesting, it is historical, it is impossible, it is reliable, and it is archaeological. All right, so let me just close with one last story. There was a woman who went to Barnes and Noble's, found a book, and she started reading it, read the introduction, read chapter 1, but it was so boring, she put the book down. Humorously, she was set up on a date with that author that particular week. And after they went on the date, she had a really, really good time with him. She fell in love with him. And so she went back to the book that he wrote and started reading it again. But this time she read it with fresh eyes because she knew who the author was. And because she knew who the author was, she had a deeper appreciation for his book. And the more she read the book, the more she fell in love with him. The more she fell in love with him, the more she fell in love with his book. And similarly, that is the way that we ought to read the Bible, because the author is God. The more we love him, the more we love his book. The more we love his book, the more we will love him. And as you read the Bible more and more, you will quickly discover that the Bible is not dead, but it is very much a living organism, or as Paul would say, it's alive and active, cutting through our hearts. And so as you read the Bible, because it is alive, what you will also see as you read the Bible is that it is also reading you, telling you what you are like. In many ways, it's a mirror showing us what we are like, pointing us ultimately to God and what Jesus has done for us on the cross. Thanks.